But let's begin this morning in Davos, Switzerland, where President Trump has unveiled his Board of Peace at the World Economic Forum. He introduced fellow world leaders who have signed on to the initiative. Notably, several U.S. allies, including most countries in Europe, the UK, France, Belgium, have said that they will not join for now. Trump says the board is going to be, quote, very successful in Gaza.
We're committed to ensuring Gaza is demilitarized, properly governed, and beautifully rebuilt. And I think we can spread out to other things as we succeed with Gaza. We're going to be very successful in Gaza. It's going to be a great thing to watch. And we can do other things. We can do numerous other things. Once this board is completely formed, we can do pretty much whatever we want to do. And we'll do it in conjunction with the United Nations.
All right, let's get the CBS News correspondent Natalie Brand, who's joining us from the White House. So, Natalie, what details have we learned about this Board of Peace?
Hi, Vlad and Kelly. Well, Secretary of State Marco Rubio acknowledges that this board is a work in progress, but it's focused on making sure that peace in Gaza and the Middle East at large endures. Now, there's still not a lot of details about how exactly it will operate, and the administration acknowledges it's not fully formed. Today's signing ceremony included 19 countries across the Middle East, Asia, also Argentina. But as you noted, the board for now is missing key allies, European countries. Belgium's foreign minister saying that there are some reservations and that they want a coordinated European response. Finland's president also spoke to Ed O'Keefe in Davos, expressing that their country and others need parliamentary approval before joining, since this is an international organization. And they also want more details about how exactly this will work with the United Nations and not rival it. We know the President Trump, at times has been very critical of the UN, but today he said that this board would work in conjunction with the UN. But again, the specifics remain a bit unclear, though the administration is stressing that it's committed to this next phase of the Gaza peace deal, which includes the very difficult task of demilitarizing Hamas and then rebuilding Gaza.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how those countries, if they evolve their thinking, if they do join the board eventually. Natalie, though, I do want to ask you about the Greenland of it all, right? President Trump, he's leaving Davos with a framework of a future deal on Greenland. This does feel like it's becoming a bit of a pattern, right? Mm-hmm. We see the tariff threats that push global leaders to a new deal.
You actually kind of call this.
Thank you.
We were talking.
Thank you, Vlad, for the credit.
You did. No, you talked about how, Natalie, that the president often makes these big pronouncements and it drives the news cycle. And ultimately, what he does is he ekes out a win.
Right.
I'm doing that in air quotes. But it sort of, it's not really meant to do what he says he's going to do. It's meant to eke out that win.
Right, and find that little piece of something that he will agree to. So, Natalie, my question to you is, do we have a sense of whether these threats were a negotiation tactic at the end of the day?
Well, as you noted, we've seen that tactic before, and the president's attempts to kind of anchor the negotiation, which is kind of what it seems he did here. During yesterday's big address at Davos about 24 hours ago, he reiterated his desire to acquire Greenland, but also said he would not take it by force. Then hours later, after the meeting with NATO Secretary General, he announced this concept of a deal, a framework. He said details will be coming, but it really served to de-escalate the standoff that had been going on over Greenland. Now, we don't know the details. We just know what the president has said so far. And in a new interview this morning, he said it would be total access with no time limit. Now, diplomatic sources talking to CBS News and Margaret Brennan said that this deal is not an agreement for U.S. control or ownership, which remains a red line for Denmark and Greenland, but it appears to beef up the existing U.S.-Denmark deal from 1951, which allowed the U.S. to establish military bases on the island. It would also increase NATO's involvement, and the president said that there will be ongoing negotiations over his Golden Dome missile defense system, which he wants to build. Vlad and Kelly.
All right, Natalie Brand for us at the White House. Natalie, thank you very much.
And staying in Davos, President Trump has been holding talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky this morning. For more on this, we are joined by CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio. Ramy, so what more can you tell us about those talks?
Yes, Kelly. Well, Zelensky has just actually taken the stage in Davos here. And the first line that we are getting is, he said, a year has passed and nothing has changed since he took that stage last year. The White House confirmed that that meeting between him and President Trump lasted for about an hour. He then quickly took the stage, as we are seeing right now live. We also saw Rubio himself and Trump come out. And let's take a listen to just the brief comments that President Trump also had to say there.
It was good. Look, we have a ways to go. They're meeting with President Putin today, as you know. The meeting was good with President Zelensky. We'll see how it turns out. A lot of people being killed. We hope it's going to end. A lot of people being killed. Last month they had 30,000 people killed. 30,000, mostly soldiers. And it's really a war that has to end.
About that 30,000 killed, we were looking into that, and NATO Chief Mark Rutte earlier said that about 1,000 people in Russia had died every day in December. So that appears to be where Mr. Trump is getting that number. A little bit of the history here, too. President Trump and President Zelensky last met about 3 weeks ago in Mar-a-Lago. That is where President Trump said that they covered 95% of the issues that were needed to end the war. Zelensky talked about that 20-point peace plan. And so we are going to be watching to see what President Zelensky does say over the course of this keynote speech right now.
So, Ramy, as you know, Zelensky had previously said he would not come to Davos unless there were real results for Ukraine that were on the table. So what changed?
Yeah. Well, yes, actually, the presence of Zelensky here means that implies that progress has been made, because just 2 days ago, he said he'd only leave if there were real results. And, you know, he's been dealing with this national emergency that he called about a week ago for the energy crisis because of Russia's continued attacks on his country. And Secretary Steve Witkoff, President Trump's special envoy, also said something similar here. He said that there was just one thing still left on the table. Here's that.
I think we've got it down to one issue. And we have discussed iterations of that issue, and that means it's solvable. So if both sides want to solve this, we're going to get it solved. So we're off to Moscow tonight. We're not staying over. We're going right to Abu Dhabi.
For the phrase security guarantees drop from President Zelensky, or any talk about territory, because those are the two hot-button issues that could derail this potential peace plan.
All right, Ramy, thank you.